Oh, AP Econ. What's up, folks? I am in Palm Springs, California. Not going to be here today. You got two parts of the day. We're going to do a little review together on this video with oligopolies. We're also going to look at graphs of oligopolies. And then you're going to start reviewing for your quiz on Thursday. You're going to get a couple worksheets, and I'm going to post a bunch of stuff on Google Classroom. Anyways, this is my first green day. I've missed this year. I've missed like 5 gold days, but this is my first green day. So very strange not to be with you, but that's all right. We'll all be okay. So let's do a quick remembrance of what we did last class. We talked about game theory and oligopolies. Okay. Uh, Oligopolies, right? They got to use strategic pricing. They have to worry about the other guy. They got to worry about their competitor. Um, They got to be smart with how they price stuff, advertise, all that. And we saw in our games, we saw in like Prisoner's Dilemma, we saw in Split or Steal, it makes sense to try to talk through these things and collude, okay? And you can benefit from collusion, right? Collusion is just cooperating with your rivals to rig a situation. But when you collude, you have to be careful because there always is incentive to backslide, cheat, backstab, so that they get an advantage for a bit. So you got to really trust the person, and you got to be careful. And then lastly, they're going to make informed decisions based on dominant strategies. We're going to talk about that. All right. So here we go. 2008 audit exam. Okay. Let's get a pen out here. Okay. We got B mine and we got G mine. Okay. B mine, look at B mine, right? Cheat or not cheat. They're the front numbers. B mine, G mine is the second numbers. Okay, B mine, it makes sense in this example, right? 10 is greater than 5, so in this scenario, they would cheat, right? Then on this scenario, 25 is greater than 20. Okay, so for B mine, their dominant strategy is to cheat. Okay, they're just going to do better that way in either scenario. So they got a dominant strategy. If we change colors here, ooh, ice blue, ice. Okay, for G mine, okay, look at them, right? If you compare 15 to 5, right, it makes sense for them not to cheat. Same here, right? 25 to 20, okay? So it makes sense. Did I do that the right way? No, I did not. I did not. Come on, Mr. T. We're still waking up here. But I was right that their incentive is not to cheat. Look at this. Hold on. Whoa, where's my pen? We got to go the other way. We got to go this way. So this now we're comparing Gmine. Not cheat right here versus cheat. We got to go this direction. So 20 is greater than 5, so they're not going to cheat. And then 25 is greater than 15, so they're not going to cheat. Okay? So Gmine's dominant strategy is not to cheat. B mine's dominant strategy is to cheat. And so this is going to be your Nash equilibrium up here. Okay. This is going to be your Nash equilibrium. They're going to end up here. Okay. So those are their two dominant strategies. Okay. And then boom, G mine, not to cheat. B mine is to cheat. Okay. All right. Whoa, that's a lot of stuff. Let's look at the next one. This is a 2007 FRQ. I'm telling you, this stuff comes up on the FRQs quite a bit. When I've been looking through old tests, this comes up quite a bit. Okay, in which two market structures do these firms operate? Explain, right? So you could just easily say this is an oligopoly. They are having to strategically price uh, against their competitor. Um, And that's it. That's an oligopoly, right? You might want to add that there's few firms, and so they got to be strategic with their pricing. Okay. If a roadway chooses an early departure, which departure time is better for ranking wheels? Okay. So roadway is going early. So we're in this top bracket. Ranking wheels is the second one, right? So 900 is definitely better than 850. So ranking wheels is going to choose early. Okay, so if roadway goes early, ranking wheels is going to go early. So that's for ranking wheels. Now, identify the dominant strategy for roadway, right? So now if we're looking at roadway here, okay, we're looking at the first numbers, okay? And early versus late, roadway makes sense. Early is better than late. Okay, and then for the second one, 950 to 700. So 950 is better than 700. So it looks like roadway, their dominant strategy is to go early because those are both better, right? Those are both better. Okay. Uh, what about for ranking wheels? What is their dominant strategy? Well, if let's change colors. Ooh, a nice purple. Ranking wheels, we'll put in purple. So looking at theirs from early to late, right? In the first one, we said they wanted to go early if roadway went early, because that's better than 850. But now on the back one, if roadway chooses late, 800 is better than 650, right? So this means that Rankin Wheels doesn't have a dominant strategy because in one, they're picking early, in the other one, they're picking late. Okay. So there is no dominant strategy for Rankin Wheels. You could explain that using this data. And then, so what is going to be the Nash equilibrium? The Nash equilibrium is going to be here because we know roadway is going to go early. And then we know Rankin Wheels will also pick early because 900 is better than 850. Okay. So for this last question, what's their daily profit? It should be 900. Okay. Hopefully that's not too bad. Again, this comes up a lot on the AP test. Make sure you practice this today and you feel good about it because we have a quiz on Thursday and we'll definitely have a payoff matrix on there. Alrighty. Okay, so let's look at the graphs, okay? Oligopoly graphs. We didn't get to this last class. There's three types of oligopolies. We got what's called price leadership. It doesn't have a graph. Colluding oligopoly, which is going to have a graph you're used to. And then non-colluding oligopoly, which has a weird graph, which has never come up on the AP test. So really, you kind of just need to know the concepts of these and know the number two graph. So not too bad, hopefully. So price leadership, right? We saw this, right? We saw these gas stations uh usually are by each other, okay? Because otherwise they compete for area and everything always comes back kind of the middle, even though that's not socially optimal. We saw that, right? So to maximize profit, they're going to be near each other and they're going to try to collude, right? They're going to try to collude to get those prices up higher. But again, there's always incentive to cheat. So you got to be a little careful with that. So collusion is illegal. Okay. Collusion is illegal. So you got to be careful again. Firms cannot set prices, right? They can't come together and be like, hey, we're all going to pick this high price. This is just not legal in the US. Now, again, this can happen, right? This can be done, but they got to be really careful, and there's always incentive to cheat. So price leadership is a strategy. It's used by firms to coordinate prices without outright collusion. Okay. So that's what this price leadership is. Okay. Here's how it goes. There's a dominant firm, right? And they're the one that initiates a price change. Okay. So you got somebody that's kind of, you got one of those gas stations that's in charge, or you got a cereal company or a shoe company or a car company, and they're like, we're going to set the price. And then the other firms just follow, right? So maybe I raise my gas from 3.50 a gallon to $4 a gallon. All the other gas stations in my small town look out their window, they see me changing the price, they're like, oh, Ian's changing the price. Time for me to change my price. And they will just follow you. Okay. So that is what price leadership is. It's really just a concept. There's no graph you need here, but that's a good thing to know. Price leadership. One firm sets the price, the others follow the leader. All right. So again, we've talked about this. Here's where it could go awry. You could have a price war. We talked a little bit about this the other day. Um, if people are like, I'm tired of this dominant firm, new dominant firm in town, I'm going to cut my prices when everybody's raising. People are going to buy from me. It could start a race to the bottom, right? And a price war, and everybody's racing to the bottom. We saw that that could happen in a oligopoly, and that gets a little scary for everybody. So each firm is going to try to undercut each other, right? Here's $4 a gallon. I'm going to go 350, 325, 3, 290, 285, right? And it's going to be a race to the bottom. Okay. I don't know what this example is. All right. Colluding oligopolies. All right. So this is the one you want to know the graph for, but it's not going to be that bad. So remember, a cartel is a type of colluding oligopoly. Okay. We've mentioned this word in class, but we never really defined it. So a cartel is a group of producers that create an agreement to fix prices price. High. Sorry, I can't talk. Fix those prices high. Okay, cartels set a price level and output at an agreed upon level. Okay. Firms require identical or highly similar demand and costs. Okay. And then a cartel must have a way to punish cheaters, right? So we see this, obviously, you've heard of drug cartels. That's, an extreme example of this, but, it's an example of this, right? They're producing a similar product. All these producers and drug dealers come together and they set a price. They agree how they're gonna, give out the drugs and how much they're gonna give out. And then obviously everybody's going to stay in line because there's some serious consequences for uh, undercutting, the prices that the cartel has set, right? We can also see this with oil, right? A lot of people would say OPEC's a cartel, and they definitely get together and they set a price, and oil is just an identical product. They set an output that they agree upon, and then I don't know how they punish their cheaters. I don't know if they've had anybody cheat. I think usually if they have some countries in OPEC that kind of want to up their output and get more money, then OPEC deals with that internally. But that would be a good question. I'm sure somebody knows it. Okay, so they really end up being kind of a monopoly in the end. So if you get a colluding oligopoly, it really just kind of turns into a monopoly. So we just end up using our monopoly graph. Okay. We end up using our monopoly graph. So you're not really having to learn a new graph today. I was kind of trying to hide that. But you just end up using the monopoly graph that we used for monopolies at the start of this unit. Okay? So this is all good news, right? This is all good news. Okay, so the last one, we had price leadership, we had colluding oligopolies, which just turned into monopoly, and now we have non-colluding oligopolies. This does have a different graph. It has never been on the AP test, so take that with a grain of salt. But just so you know, this is called a kinked demand curve. Okay. So if you do have firms that are not colluding, they have two pieces of demand. Okay. So firms are not competing, sorry, not colluding. There is two ways you can react to competitors' pricing. You can match the price, right? So if one firm cuts its prices, you just follow because you don't want to lose business, right? So you just match their price. And then this causes inelastic demand, right? This causes inelastic demand. Two, you just ignore what they did, okay, and maintain your same price. And this will cause elastic demand. Okay, so we get what's this kinked demand curve here. This says if this firm increases its prices, others will follow, or sorry, other firms will ignore it and keep the prices the same, right? As the only firm with high prices, quantity demand for this firm will decrease a lot. Okay, so think about it this way. If you increase prices and everybody that's non-colluding with you just keeps their prices the same, your quantity demanded is going to decrease quite a bit because you are the only firm that has high prices in this oligopoly situation. Everybody just stayed with you. Okay. And that gives you this first bit of the demand curve. Okay. So this is where you raise your prices, right? And you can see a price increase is going to move demand a lot. Okay. So there, a small shift at this part of the curve in price greatly affects the quantity that you're going to sell, right? Because everybody else in that model is keeping their prices the same and people are going to buy from them. Okay. So you're very elastic demand in this first part. Okay. If you decrease prices, other firms are going to match it or lower their prices. Okay. So if you raise, in the last example, you raise your price, other firms are just going to say, no, we're not raising. Why would we do that? We're going to sell more if we stay at our price. This one says now, if you decrease the price, other firms are going to go with you. Okay. They're gonna match it and they're going to lower their prices. Okay. Since all firms have lower prices, okay, quantity demanded is only going to increase a little bit, right? So now when you're in this kinked area here, if you make a price change where you decrease your price, your quantity is just going to increase a little bit instead of drastically like early on in the elastic. So this is when you have inelastic demand. If everybody's moving their prices at the same, people will still need to buy from you, right? Because everybody's moving their prices together. Okay. Whereas earlier, people were keeping their prices the same. And so they didn't need to buy from you. They could just buy from your competitor. Okay. So I know this is crazy. You're not going to have to graph this. Okay. You should just know the concept and know that this is a possibility, but it has never been on an AP test. So there is a vertical gap in your marginal revenue here at the kink. Okay. So your marginal revenue is decreasing here, and then it's a steep decline after that. MC can move too, right? So this is a thing where the price at the kink, it's a weird thing where the price is sticky. So prices aren't really moving around that kink as much as they might around the other parts of the curve. Okay. So very strange situation, very strange graph. This is just to give you an idea of it. Okay. So don't feel like you need to memorize this or be able to draw it, but it's good to know that this is a possibility. All right. So the three graphs for uh, oligopolies is this kink demand curve, which is kind of a wild card. Probably won't be on the AP test. Then you just got the monopoly graph if they're colluding oligopolies. And then lastly, you just have the concept of price leadership. So those are the three things you should know for oligopoly graphs and really kind of just know one graph you already know. So there we go. Hope this was a great video. And I will look forward to seeing you on Thursday, Friday, or sorry, Wednesday. You're going to review more. It's a unified day. You're going to review more for your quiz. I'm going to be on junior retreat, so I'm missing you twice in a row. So if you have questions on any of this stuff and you want to come review with me, I'm free Tuesday before school and Tuesday after school. Or send me an email and we can chat on email. All right. Have a good one.